stacking cash, learning the game. No more fear, no more shame. It's not just money, it's how you live. A future for the ones you give. Success is calling, don't ignore. Take control, unlock the door. Dreams ain't distant, they're right in sight. Sam will help you get it right. He's got the roadmap, got the plan. Helping you take a stand, financial peace, a future bright. Shanebarker shows the light. Call 385-323-2493. Change your life.
Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy Show, and today we have another phenomenal guest. His name is Shanebarker, and when he registered to be on the show, I went and started researching him, and he is at the forefront of everything you need to know, honestly, when it comes to internet-wise, and how are you being represented. That's one part of it, and then also I'm going to have a bunch of questions about reviews and how does he moderate reviews. If you've ever wondered how to manage your brand, and I'll classify that and we'll get into the conversation about that, but how to manage your public persona or your brand management, how do you do that effectively so it's not time consuming? How do you not get lost in the comments? Sometimes reading the comments is the worst things. It's a lot of people's downfalls. So how do you find that out? And then also, in the world we live in today, Elon Musk bought Twitter. There came out a report like how many of the actual people who are on Twitter, and I say on Twitter as far as having an account, actually are real humans versus how many of them are bots. And it was astonishing. Almost 2/3 of the people, active subscribers to Twitter at the time, were probably not even real. Like, they don't know the exact number, but they probably weren't even real, which means that 2/3 of the Twitter base or Twitter sphere was fake robot computers being controlled by somebody to push an agenda. And whatever that agenda is, not really the most important part, but that's happening not just in Twitter. We just know about it in Twitter, or X as it is now. We just don't know how much is on Facebook or on Instagram or on TikTok or on Rumble or on all these different platforms or on Google or on Wikipedia or on any of these things that you might think are real. We're entering a digital age where real is a very, very small concept here. And we need to know, hey, what is real, what's not real? And how do we determine that and not get lost in whatever some robot decided to say about us online? So I'm really excited about this conversation. I think that it has paramount, not just for a brand management, but also to help educate myself and hopefully you about how do we make the internet a safer place for our children? How do we make this internet a safer place for ourselves? How do we understand what's happening so that we don't get so emotionally involved in what we think is happening, even though it's not real? So anyways, that's kind of what I believe this podcast is. These are the questions I'm going to be asking. He's over here sweating already. He's like, I don't have an answer for that. I'm just teasing. Shane is an absolute expert, and he's been around the block a few times, but go for it. Shane, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into what you're doing today, and why is it so important to you? Why are you passionate about this aspect of the internet?
Yeah, absolutely. So Sam, first and foremost, thanks for having me on the podcast today, man. I really appreciate it. Been a fan for a while. And so when we were able to connect, I was excited about this. So yeah, I'll give you a little backstory here. So all the stuff that you said is obviously I'm excited about, unpacking a lot of that here today on the podcast. Historically, my background has been in the digital space, right? So I have shanebarker.com, which is my main website. That's where I think most people if anybody knows of me, that's where they've heard about me, is because I used to do a lot of blog content, had about 900 articles at a certain point. Used to have a very successful podcast that I did for a number of years. We got like number 33 on business podcasts. So we were heading up in that direction. Decided to pivot and go in some different directions. But at the end of the day, digital marketing has been where I've been for 25 years, right? I mean, you can kind of tell from the gray and the beard that I'm an older guy,
I'm getting
right?
them too. I just trim them off.
When you can. See, I don't have a lot of hair up top of my head. Yeah. So then it just, anyways, I'm trying to offset it here. I'm trying to figure that out. But the digital thing, I've always done digital SEO, website building, that kind of thing. Lead generation has been big. Also jumped heavy into the influencer space, where I used to teach at UCLA. So I had a colleague of mine, Amanda, and I, that created the influencer marketing program there at UCLA. So I have a long history of online stuff, but also offline as well. A lot of people don't know this. I used to own a bar in Chico, California. And Chico's like the same place that, Sierra Nevada is from. So it was one of the original places for craft brews or craft beers. What's interesting is, it's not too hard to sell alcohol to college students. So I don't want to say I was a master marketer at that time, but you have the right drink specials, you get the right groups in here. There's some finagling that needed to happen there. But I've done a lot of stuff offline as well. But online is where I've really cut my teeth, right? That's really everything that I've always done historically was like, hey, I didn't have the money to do it, so I had to go figure it out, right? So there was never big budgets and all kinds of money that I could blow just to see what's happening. My thing was always frugal and, hey, how can we move and shake and make things happen without spending money that I don't have, right?
Right.
So that's always the dichotomy of there that happens there. Well, TraceFuse is a company that I started about 5.5 years ago. The reason why I started it was I've always wanted to have like a SaaS based product, right? Like a software as a service based product. And SEO and influencer marketing, they were all pretty saturated with different softwares. And a lot of the people that own those software companies I knew personally because I'd been in the space for so long. So I didn't really want to compete with them. And so I thought, what I want to do? Well, the emphasis, the reason why I created TraceFuse was I had some consumers or some clients of mine that were like direct to consumer. And they were, selling on Amazon. And so I said, hey, what's your biggest pain point with Amazon? And most people said reviews. And so I said, oh, not a problem. Hey, I'll be able to figure that out. So I was, I'll say a little too cocky, probably a little too confident on this side. And I ended up going into it and saying, oh, I'll be able to figure this out in a few weeks, maybe give me a month or two. Well, it took us 2 years. It was not an easy process. There's a lot of different things that, Amazon's constantly changing. There's a lot of nuances to how we do things. But the good part is over the last 3.5 years now, we have over 600 brands we work with, and we've removed over 16,000 reviews on the Amazon platform. We specialize in US, Canada, and UK.
Question about that. Does Amazon typically like inform you they're going to be changing their algorithm or their metrics about, because I when I first published my book on Amazon, it was not, and this is specifically in like book publishing world, like to get a first time, or well, not first time, but like Amazon bestseller or whatever. It was not quite as much gaming the system, where now it's very, I will say it's pay to play, and they might say, well, it's not pay to play, but it kind of is. To get the number one in the thing, you have to have X amount of purchases above other books in the same day. And anyways, you could game it for sure, but those metrics weren't there. And then now it's like, if somebody leaves a review on your book that's ever even shared the same, like now they're like super mega data tracking to stop false reviews, which I think is value. I think that there's a value in the marketplace. I think it does suck because it like eliminates people who do know, like, and trust you to review your thing if you've ever been close to them. So I think there's pros and cons there. But do they tell you when those changes are going to happening, or is it just like one day your shadow, and in early days of social media, your shadow ban, you're like, what did I do? What changed? How much forewarning do you as a provider have, or can you see? Maybe they don't tell you, but you can see it to adjust your client's situation.
Yeah. So with Amazon, there's obviously, changes on a daily basis that happen with Amazon on a number of different fronts. With what we do, we don't usually get notifications of Amazon's making changes. If it's a huge change, then great, they'll make an announcement, do a press release, and kind of tell the world. So most of the time when we file cases with Amazon, and so what happens is you have reviews. So let's say you have, we talk about critical reviews. So those are 1, 2s, and 3 stars. So what we look at is our software will go in, we grab those reviews, and we look at those, and we figure out which ones are against Amazon's guidelines. They violate Amazon's own rules. So if somebody mentioned a competitor, pricing, cussing, hate speech, anything FBA is going to be where I have my pallet, I send it to Amazon, they ship out. Well, if somebody says, oh my God, I got this product, it was terrible, it was 2 weeks late, well, that's a problem with the shipping, not with the product, right? So we want true product reviews. And so that's the angle that we
FBA
use.
stand for?
Fulfilled by Amazon. So that means that Amazon, so fulfilled by merchant is FBM. So that means me as the merchant, I do it out of my garage or my warehouse or whatever. FBA is going to be, hey, I give my whole pallet of product to Amazon, and Amazon facilitates everything, right? The storage, everything, shipping, and that kind of thing. So those are the main things we look at. We also have a fraudulent feature as well, where people, maybe if you've been attacked by a competitor or something like that, we have ways that the AI will detect that. But the funny part is that you were talking about is early on when Amazon would make changes, we didn't really know, right? Because there was just like didn't get notified. The beautiful thing now is now that we file so many cases and we have certain departments that we can file with, if they shut off a department from us being able to file cases and they don't let anybody know, we can see that because of the amount of data that we're getting and the amount of cases that we're filing, right? Before, if I had 5 clients, let's say, and I'm filing cases and they're not responding. I don't know if they're just not responding or if they've shut down that avenue to be able to file cases. So now, because I have 700 customers and we're monitoring them on a daily basis, the amount of cases that we file, we're making sure that we're 1,000% compliant with Amazon's guidelines. But we'll start to see if, hey, we had a 10% success rate with this department. If it gets down to 0 and it's that way for a week or two, we have so many files that we send. Hey, there's a change in the guard here. There's something that's happening here. We need to evaluate this. So now we kind of get those indications just because of the pure amount of information that we grab and the cases that we're filing. So we get some indicators. But early on, we were flying blind, man. There was nothing to indicate anything.
It's kind of an interesting when you're in a responsive. Well, I wonder how that's affected. And I know it sounds like you took 2 years to figure it out, which is, that's a lot of testing to be just, hopefully people trusted you along the process. But then there's the 3 years into it, how that affects the business model of what you're doing, knowing that, like, hey, you're paying somebody's paying you for a service to have things adjudicated, for lack of a better word, on their behalf. And if Amazon gets smart to that, or they care, or whatever, or they change their system for maybe, one thing that people don't recognize, I don't think, and I'm going to novicely talk about this, but I've just, in adjusting my own personal website, you go in and you make a fix on one thing of the code because you think, oh, this is going to be better here. And you don't realize that just destroyed 6 other parts of your code, right? So from a coding perspective, again, I'm not an expert at all. I just know that I've screwed up enough websites of my own to know, like, I don't think that large companies like this that are dealing with a company as sophisticated as Amazon are trying to hurt the customer or trying to hurt people. Maybe there's some dark forces in there. I just don't think. I think a lot of times technology does what technology does. You go and fix something and it ruins a bunch of other stuff. And so then you have a bunch of people in there trying to fix all the unintended consequences. So just keep that in mind. Like, we're not disparaging anybody, but I think that it happens where you're charging for a service to have this adjudicated. And if your results start to dip, but because of uncontrollable factors, how does that affect your business model, and what type of awareness are you bringing that into a client before you're actually having that conversation with them?
Yeah, great question. So the good part about what we do is we're all performance driven. So what that means is that when a client signs up with us, if we don't remove reviews, they don't pay. So we took away some of that, in theory, risk or what they were worried about of, like, well, what happens if, you collect a retainer and you don't do anything and you just run off, right? Which is obviously not what we do. But
Sure.
So what we did is we kind of flipped that model on its head and said, instead of doing a retainer or something like that, just pay for performance. If we don't remove review, don't pay. And it's like, oh, okay, well, what's the risk, right? So it's awesome. So we do have an onboarding fee now that we charge because we do monitoring and we're constantly, obviously the software is constantly evolving. But it's not a monthly fee. It's a one-time fee that they pay, and then they don't have to pay it again. So we just do that just to get them onboarded and get things going.
Sure, that's
The
some
good
real
part
work.
is, yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah. And it's not. There's a lot of things, a lot of moving pieces to make the software happen. And a lot of people just think it's connect an API and then magic happens. It's like, no, that's a starting point. It's like wanting to open a bar and knowing a bartender. Like, that's awesome, a bartender, but you still got to get permits and all the other stuff that happened there. So for us, that was us going in and doing that and doing it for our clients. Us saying, hey, you just pay when a review gets removed, made it a lot easier. Now, there are ebbs and flows with Amazon removing reviews, right? Like, it just doesn't mean that all of a sudden when you sign up with us, you're going to get 20 reviews that get removed in a day. That's just not how things work. Because we are compliant with Amazon and the way that we file cases, it could be a slower process, slower than what most people want, I would say, right? It's kind of like, I have a background in SEO. So everybody'd be like, oh, I want to sign up to you. And hey, how quickly are we going to start getting leads? You think next week? And I'm like, I would love for that to happen. That would be awesome. But realistically, no, that's not right. So we have to set that expectation. The same thing with this. And we have reviews. It's like, what I tell people is try to be more proactive than reactive, because what happens is people come to me in an oh crap situation. There's usually other words they use, but let's say, oh crap, a situation. And what happens, they come to us and say, hey, oh my God, it's Q4. I need to get 20 reviews removed. Can you do this over the weekend? And it's like, that's not how it works. We don't hack into things. We're not breaking into anything. We file with Amazon. Amazon has to listen, remove that review, but it's that nuanced process. It's not an easy process with Amazon. And so that's the hard part, is what people don't realize is that it's like, hey, this is going to take some time. And when I do all my own sales calls, not because I can't afford a sales team or don't want a sales team, it's at the end of the day, I like to meet with sellers, and I also like to have proper expectations, right? When it comes to what the outcome could be, because that's where a lot of things get kind of muddy, is because people expect miracles. And I tell them, listen, if I could give you miracles, like I get paid when miracles happen. Do you not think I want miracles as badly as you want miracles? You want
Sure.
to give me money, I want to collect your money, and you'll be happy and I'll be happy. But guess what? There's somebody out there bigger, which is called Amazon, that's going to be making those decisions. It could happen. We've seen reviews get removed within a few days, and we've seen it taken a few weeks easily. So
Mhm.
that's the hard part, is like expectation is important, but I always have to remind people, like, listen, you have a briefcase full of money you want to give to me. I want to happily take that from you because that's what you want. I'm here to make you happy as a customer. I want you to get amazing results. I want your sales to triple, and I want amazing things to happen. But we have Amazon, and we have to be, I actually, there's a true story. I have two clients right now that have we call two ASINs. So ASINs is like a product SKU, like think of like a SKU that you have like at a restaurant or something, or I mean at a grocery store or something.
Okay.
I have two clients right now that are saying, "Hey, I'll give you six figures if you can remove X amount of reviews in the next 2 months." And the problem with it is if I was to go at that magnitude, I mean, filing tons and tons of cases, we'd be violating Amazon's guidelines. And I'm never going to do that for money. I just won't, because this is how, even though this company clearly said, hey, do it, green
When you
light,
say you
absolutely make
file
it happen.
against their guidelines, what do you mean by that? Like try and clear more than they want, than Amazon says you can clear? Why,
Well,
like,
this
why
is
would you do that anyways if you know they're going to reject it? Or is there a
no, so
chance
it,
that they
it
wouldn't reject it?
So it doesn't come down to that. You actually touched on it earlier about being shadow banned. So what that means is this, is if you file, let's say if you file 100 cases with Amazon and you ask for updates every hour, or you just keep bombarding Amazon. I know clients, I know customers, not ones that we've worked with necessarily. Actually, one customer, I believe, maybe, that they'll just quit responding to you because you're bombarding them, you're harassing them, you're doing all kinds of things. You have to realize, like, you're a guest in Amazon's house.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Amazon doesn't, I mean, I'm not saying Amazon doesn't need you, but guess what? There's 10,000 people that sell these. So guess
Right.
what? If you're acting outlandish and saying crazy stuff and being a problem child, you will get pushed aside. And guess what? They have 9,999 other people that will be selling this exact same product that will be coming up behind you. So that's what you have to realize. And a lot of people, and I get it because I'm a very emotional person. I always tell people, when you build a product, it's your baby, right? You treat it
Mhm.
like that. And
Yeah.
so when somebody comes and, talks bad to your baby, or does, pushes your baby down, which sounds terrible when we use baby as the example, but you get my point,
But it's
then
very real though.
you take it very personal, right?
Right.
Like at the end of the day, it's like, so you go and you say something crazy, and what are you guys doing on your side? You guys are dropping the ball and you guys are ridiculous. Amazon doesn't need you though. So, right. You got to remember
And
that you were
it's
always a
even more
guest.
than that. This happened in when I was younger. We were in construction, and the race to the bottom is the worst, right? When if you they had this issue in plumbing, where you almost like have to charge the market rate for plumbing, because if you go undercut the industry, it hurts everybody and it
Oh
makes
yeah.
everybody upset and everybody looks bad. And so it's like, look, just because you can manage to do it for a cheaper price doesn't mean that you should charge less. And
Yeah.
because it hurts the whole industry, and there's a certain level of protecting the industry. So even if you could go and do that and get results, pretty soon maybe Amazon's okay with one person being the annoying redhead stepchild. But if everybody starts being that way, then they just stop allowing you to remove results at all. And it's actually counterproductive. If you try and go too fast, then maybe Amazon just says, not just to the one person, but to everybody. So you not choosing to do that for a few clients who want it done isn't just protecting that them as a person from getting more reviews removed, but it's protecting the industry from having the ability to remove reviews. And that's a big understanding when we take a step back and understand our actions, even if we can do something, doesn't mean we should do something.
Yeah. And that absolutely is the way that we look at it, is that at the end of the day, we want to be compliant with Amazon. We want to be a liaison to Amazon. And it's important for sellers to understand, like, you're a guest, right? And we're going to do everything we can to get those removed. But if you start saying crazy stuff, when you're a guest in my house and you come over, guess what? We can have a beer, and my wife makes amazing prime rib. We can have a great time. But if you start cussing and acting crazy and telling me, hey, this is the worst prime rib I've ever had, guess what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna kick you out. Like, you got about 4 seconds to get out that front door. So, I mean, that's an example. But my point
Sure.
is like, hey, you're a guest, right? And so I think when I talk to new sellers, I say, listen, you got to think about the mindset of Amazon doesn't need you, right? And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's not that they don't care about you, but Amazon is absolutely there for consumers, right? I mean, think about this. As a consumer, Amazon makes it what? They have a one-click buy. You can buy something gets shipped out to you. You don't like it, what do? You package it up. You say, I'm returning this. They put money in your account before you even ship it out. Who does that? Now, you go over to Kohl's, which is right down the street, or you go to, Whole Foods. They make it extremely easy. You walk up and say, hey, I want to return this. And they say, not a problem. They put a sticker on it. They do a QR code and it's shipped out. Like, they make it
Question
extremely
about
easy.
that. Um,
Yeah.
I agree it's easy. What's interesting, and I don't know how this worked in the real world before, and I say the real world like back in the days when Walmart had a yellow smiley face as an icon. Okay, like that's what I'm talking about. Go back
Yeah.
way back. When you used to go, you'd go to customer service and you would return all the things that didn't fit, that didn't whatever. You'd return it, and I always just assumed they just put that merchandise that you returned, as long as it was not damaged, it was basically unused, whatever. They would just go put it back out on the floor and sell it to the next guy. I don't know. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe there was some type of other process, but it seemed like if you were just returning it because you didn't want it and it was within the return window, they would just go resell it. I think at the scale, because so many people, and I would include myself in this, we shop on Amazon, but sometimes because we don't get to try stuff on, we don't get to do, you buy a bunch of clothes knowing full well you're going to return half of them because you just don't know what size your kid is, right? So you got to buy 3 sizes and you're going to keep the one that fits and you're going to return the other sizes. And you only want to go shopping one day, so you do it all in one day and you just return it. I've done that. I know I've done it, and I'm not necessarily ashamed of it. It's something that happens inside of the natural world of online shopping. Does all of the things that get returned, are they able to resell them at the same price, or is there an automatic took it off the lot the first time deduction? Like, how does that affect the actual business model of Amazon or any online store for that matter?
Yeah. So really, there's a few things. So some stuff can be returned, right? It can be returned and can be resold. I think there's other things that can be returned that can't be resold, and there's other things they can't even return. And what I mean by that is you can't ship it out. I'll give you an example. We bought some cologne for my son. This was a few years ago. He didn't. He got 2. Somebody else bought it for him, and we're like, "Hey, we want to return this." And like, "Yeah, you can't ship that out like that, like just because of the content of it." Didn't know why that was, but we could. And they just gave us our money back, and we kept the second bottle. And I'm not saying people should do that because you don't want to game the system. But there's some things. Most of the time, I believe things are going to be put in a thing where they're going to be used. But Amazon and other platforms, they do resell stuff. And sometimes they'll end up back in the resale packet. Like, somebody will go, hey, this looks good. I'm going to sell it. The next person buys it brand new and they look and they said, hey, this has hairs on it or something, right? And it's like, wait a second, that doesn't make sense. I don't know, like, exactly out of 10 things, how much Amazon holds on to and which stuff they tried to put back in. I do know there's also companies out there that will go buy, containers or crates full of used stuff, and you
Return
can go
goods.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can go in and, this is $50,000 worth of stuff and I'll give you $5,000 for it. Great. You go take the thing. And then great. They're at least making some money from that. And sometimes you get amazing stuff. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's used. Sometimes it's barely used. Just that's a lot of people, resell on eBay and arbitrage. So there's a lot of different things that can happen there. I think for the most part, if it comes back used, I think they're making an assessment on whether it can be resold, if it's even in the category of being resold, if it has the stickers and the tags on it, it looks good, then, somebody's making that decision. I wouldn't want to make that decision because I would just assume, hey, it's used and
Yeah,
move it
I
over.
guess part of my curiosity is, again, I've never worked for Amazon, I've never been there, but from some of the stuff that gets advertised, it's almost like mostly robots work at Amazon and some humans. Like if we had to do a ratio robot to human, mostly. So like, yes, the stuff gets put there, but then robots are go picking the shelves. Robots are boxing the stuff. Robots are doing all of this. So then, like, what does that look like going back in? If you're even returning, I don't know. I wonder what the number is, like what the return ratio is. Is it 20%, 25%, 30%? Like, I wonder what the return ratio is to Amazon. But to do that quality check to determine if something like that's no longer a robot's job, I feel like that's gonna have to be a human's job. But maybe I'm wrong, and it's just like, and then
Yeah.
maybe it's easier just to write it off as a loss for Amazon than to pay somebody or a team of humans to track it. It's just an
Well, there's
interesting
yeah, no,
curiosity.
yeah. So I mean, I would tell you this. So I mean, Amazon definitely has humans. I mean, it definitely has robots too. They're definitely trying to transition to that between AI and robots. They want to use drones. They've got got a patent a little while ago on drones coming out of the ocean to be able to deliver stuff. So it's a very interesting time if you follow Amazon and what's capable. I mean, they've got a little bit of money. Last time I checked, they can do just about
Sure.
anything they want. So it's been interesting to kind of follow that journey. The thing is when you talk about returns and things like that, I just think there's a number of factors that play into that, because when you're returning something, you are returning it to Amazon, but it is the person that sells it that is taking that in. Does it make sense? Like, I mean, it does go to Amazon and it does come back as a return. The seller is the one who's losing their money. Amazon has to look at this and go, we have to store it again. What do we need to do? Do we hold on to this product and try to sell it again, right? Or are we going to put this over in a container or something that somebody comes and buys and just gets the whole container? We just want to get it out because we have 10,000 returns on a daily basis. I just want this to be out the door. I don't want to store this. It costs too much money to store. I want to get it out the door. Those are probably depends on what's the cost of the item and how often the returns and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I will say that I appreciate whenever it's like almost as revolutionary as the one-click buy thing is when they started saying, "Hey, this is a frequently returned item. Here's why."
Yeah.
Like, be sure you want to buy this before you buy it. I think that's really helpful as a consumer. Because I don't know, like if I go into a grocery store and I can see something and see it's cheap and see it's not, but the picture looks good, but then you go and you're like, okay, I'm feeling this and I don't want it. And then it stops moving. Then the store knows, hey, we haven't moved this. We're no longer selling this at our store.
Yeah.
Amazon, just because of the nature of travel and everything, it doesn't turn out that way. So let's transition a little bit. So you're managing reviews. You're abiding by the guidelines. Does your business operate in reverse? So let's say that people want reviews. Are you in a position where you're able to maybe not go in and add fake reviews? That's not what I'm talking about, but stimulate or remind the people who did buy. And I'm saying this because I buy lots of stuff on Amazon, and I don't remember the last time I left a review. So like, I just that's just a frank truth. So then I wonder, like, is your business also operating to get better reviews? Not just to remove them, but what are you doing on the opposite side to help people get better, higher quality, real, honest reviews?
Yeah. And that's getting positive reviews is very, very important. I mean, obviously we knock down 1, 2s, and 3s, and it's more important, or not more important, but equally as important to get 4s and 5s, right? The way that I always explain it to people, it's like a diet, right? So if you go and you work out and you eat right, you're going to, see your chiseled stomach, you'll see your chest muscles, you'll see whatever that is, right? I've always been great at one, not the other. I'm always, okay, great, I go work out, but I'm eating cupcakes and, having a beer at night. Okay, I'm Irish, so don't judge me. But so that's, if you do both, which is highly recommended, then you're going to transition up to a higher, we call it a BSR, bestseller ranking, where you actually got to go lower if you want to be number one. But maybe like your star ratings, those are all things that, and once again, you're going to see a quicker transition if you do both things. We have a few different companies that we work with. One of them is called Swapped. It's a good buddy of mine, Andrew, that owns that company, and they'll put like QR codes on the product, and they have a kind of like a call to action and stuff that will go in, tell people, hey, give me a 5-star review and I'll give you a gift card. Like that's all stuff that's against Amazon's guidelines. But he has a way that he's compliant, and he's done an amazing job. And we're actually partnering with Andrew because he's done such a great job. He used to work at Klaviyo, was one of the main API guys over there. And so Andrew just does, I've always been trying to find good people that have good products, and Andrew's one of those guys. And so he's kind of the yin to our yang. There's also a company called Ecom Engine. They do called Feedback 5, where that automates the process. So, kind of like how you said, hey, I don't remember writing a review. Well, a lot of the times you don't get the email that says, hey, you should write a review. Feedback 5 automates that. So if you bought 10 products in the next, let's say 10 days, you're going to see, or the next few days, you'll start seeing these things come in. Oh, I see that you got your XYZ hair cooler, blah, blah, this is awesome. Hey, will you go write a review for this? And so it automates that process to make sure that we don't miss anybody. So that's a
question about that. Because part of my annoyance of leaving reviews or websites, even Riverside, who we're recording on right now, and I love Riverside, it'll like every time you're in there editing, hey, will you review us? So you go leave a review, and it doesn't track like, hey, this computer already left a review. Stop bugging the hell out of it, right? It doesn't track that. So it's like it's at some point, it's just like the way we get desensitized to advertising. You used to be like, got a book, okay, I'm going to buy something. Now it's like we get advertised so much that we're like, whatever. It's just it's a non-part of our life anymore. We just ignore it. We escape it. With Amazon reviews, I'm in that mode where sometimes I do get emails like, hey, did you leave a review? My frustration, and I haven't even tried it on there, so I don't even know if this is true, so I'm asking. I hate when somebody asks me for a review and you say, sure, I'll give you a review. And then it takes you to a whole nother website. And it's like, it's a process to leave a review. I'm like, dude, I just gave you a 5-star. Don't ask me 12 questions about it. Like, this isn't 20 questions. This was 5-star. I like the product. Move on. And same thing, like if it was in an email and they send me an email that says, hey, did you like this? Will you leave a review? And I respond to the email. that might be a lot more doable than like, oh yeah, I'll leave a review. Takes me to, I'm like, okay, I don't got time for this anymore. Like now I'm like, you've disrupted my flow. And better yet, if they are, I don't know if they're allowed to or not, are they allowed to like have a, like Google can pre-respond through AI to your emails, basically, like, or at least a suggested response. Here's 6 options of suggested responses. Are they allowed to do that with? I don't know the FCC, and I don't know all the rules. Sorry, FTC. I don't know all the rules around this, but I'm curious, like, what level of AI is going to be involved or can be involved before they say, okay, now this is just another robot doing this for people, and this is a fake review. So, how do you like bridge that gap as a provider? And maybe it, since it's not your specialty, you don't know, but maybe you do.
Yeah. No, I can give you an answer for it. So, I mean, when people are, so Amazon's using more and more AI. I mean, just when it comes to, even when we file cases, we know that there's AI on the other side of it, or LLM, that will go and take a look at it, make first evaluation of what it is. Because you have to realize they've, probably
Sure.
millions of cases that are filed on a daily basis. I don't even know what the number
Mhm.
is, but it's a lot. So they have to figure out, hey, instead of having, a million people to deal with all that, how do we be able to scale and use AI? So I believe AI, and in fact, I know that AI is the first component when it comes to those types of things. So, then past that is like, if AI says no, we're not going to remove the review, then obviously we file other cases. There's different things that we do. We kind of
Sure.
like a work tree, of like, oh, if this happens, this is what we do. And then, we're filing on
Mhm.
cases that clearly we know Amazon wants them removed. Like, I'll give you an example. This is an effing terrible product. Well, effing being a cuss word. Well, there's nobody at Amazon that's going to look at that and say, I think that's good for the kids to see on the platform. I think we want
Mhm.
to have that F word on there. We know it should be removed. So that's why we know that this should be removed. We're not trying to fight with them on maybe somebody that used a product wrong or something, because that has to, you have to get a different type of attention from them. I'm looking
Sure.
at them and going, saying, hey, F word, you say you can't say the F word, let's get this removed from a basic
Sure.
standpoint. Now with AI, and I do know that AI, you can get it to look at your emails and answer responses and do this and do that. I do believe that might be a part of the process, right, of being able to write reviews. I think Amazon, I think in the next few years they might implement something that'll be more towards that. I think what they really want is they really want you, they don't want to, I think what they're trying to stay away from is coercing people into saying something by using AI, right? Maybe something they wouldn't say. Like, because if I'm going to write a review, in theory, I'm writing it comes from my own thoughts. This is how I really feel. This is what it is. Now, AI could help them put it in a better format, right? Because that's another thing. If you just write, this is a crappy product, that is something we could potentially file on, because it's not a thorough review. Amazon likes reviews that you as a consumer will read my review and make a decision on whether you want to buy that product. If everybody writes this is a crappy product, I guess that does help your decision making, but that
Mhm.
doesn't really give you the ups and downs of the
It
product,
doesn't
right?
help you
Like, did you
understand why it's a crappy product, and maybe you're okay with a
exactly?
crappy product. Like, I do this. I work in the financial industry, and some people are like, "Oh, I hate this solution because of X, Y, Z." I'm like, "Well, that's fine. Like the reason most people get that solution is because of
Because
X,
of
Y, Z."
that.
So, like,
Yeah.
I understand that. Like, not every review is a bad review. Sometimes the worst reviews are actually the best reviews. Like, oh yeah, this
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
exactly everything you're concerned about is exactly why these other people don't like it. Which is probably why you should get it. So that happens in anything in life, and when we get into the next section of this podcast that I definitely want to address, we'll talk more about that. So thanks for bringing that up. But
Yeah.
keep going on that review
No, I
style.
just I think that at the end of the day, they want you to come up with your own opinion on what it is. The goal of a review for Amazon is to give you some context, right? Did I try the product for 1 week? Did I try it for 1 year? How often did I use it? Did I like it? What did I not like about it? You can't just say it's just crappy. I mean, you can, but it's like that's not really a review. Amazon wants people to look at this and say, okay, I read these reviews, positive and negative, and guess what? What I've gotten from this is that it is going to be a good product for me. This person didn't like it, but they have XYZ complications. I don't have those complications, right? If you just write it's a bad product, well, why though, right? I need some context.
Sure.
And why wasn't it good for you? Because once again, as you said, it could be great for me, but I don't, right? Not everybody's the same. So the more information that's there, the better decision you can make as a consumer. So that's what Amazon wants, is more thorough reviews. And I think and so maybe AI could, maybe make it so the format's a little better and maybe asking more questions. The problem is they don't want to push people in a direction that maybe they weren't
Sure.
going to be heading originally,
Well,
right? Like,
yeah, I'm not suggesting necessarily that Amazon would be doing it. I'm just
mm,
curious if these review companies. Well, I guess one thing, I guess, from Amazon's perspective, if they are going to allow it or not, is if, let's say, a review company is hired. I'm saying review company sends out an email to Sam and says, "Hey Sam, how did you like this product? Like, will you please go review the product because you bought it and I'm paid to get you to get review it, right?" if I respond to that email, like, is there a way to like API an email where I go and do the review right inside of my email and click send, and then they take that review and they go post it as if it's me? Does that still count, or does it screw up where the IP address of the computer that's posting a review? Like, because
No,
Amazon is a little
you so
weird.
I don't know about Amazon, but I know like with Google or other platforms that you can go in if they say, "Hey, will you write a review of this?" You click yes, a thing will pop up. Even it'll say, "Do you want an AI to help you with this?" AI will put it in there. You can click return and it's done. Like they make it super easy, and they will use AI. With Amazon, they don't, that I know of, that I've ever
Yeah,
heard
I
of.
haven't seen it with Amazon. That's why I'm asking. Like, I've seen it on Google's side, but I haven't really seen it with Amazon. So I just wonder, maybe I would leave more positive reviews. In every business, you have this issue where unhappy people leave reviews and happy people rarely do,
Yeah,
because they moved on with their life. They're happy. They are moving on. Like, I think a
yeah,
lack of reviews is maybe a good thing, as long as you have the number of. And that's another thing on the Amazon. I know this is like, who's interested in this much about Amazon? Well, I think we should all be interested, I think, because this is our primary form of shopping. Although Walmart is coming up fast with their online stores, and maybe faster, and they might take over. And we'll see what happens business wise between Amazon.com and Walmart.com. But this point is still there. I would love to see, okay, this product's been purchased X amount of times and it's had this many reviews. Or like, if I see a product that's been purchased 10,000 times and has no reviews, I'm probably actually okay buying that product. I'm like, hey, this product has been purchased a ton of times. People like this product and they're so happy they don't bother leaving a review. Versus a product that's been purchased 400 times and has 400 reviews. And then that makes me almost like, okay, really? 100% of people reviewed this product?
yeah.
I don't know about that. That's where I would get a little skeptical. So, but I do know that they have like this many reviews on there. Do they have a thing that says this product has been purchased this many times on Amazon?
So you do. So, and what it'll do, you can go in and it'll say, oh, this product was purchased 300 times last month, right? So it'll kind of give you an idea of how many people purchased it. Also, when they write reviews, so when you do want to have, so they have a lot of people that have purchased it. You do want to have some reviews on there because you want people to be able to have some kind of context. Because if nobody
Sure.
writes a review, that's a little weird. Or if they have just every review is the most glowing review ever. Oh my God, best product I've ever had in the world. And it's like, those are socks, man. Like they can't be that enjoyable, right? Like they're socks, for God's sakes. So those are the things we look at as like, like there needs to be some stuff, even if people are writing bad reviews, like even though that's our industry, not all bad reviews are bad reviews. Like you as a consumer or me as an owner might not like it. But if you're going to a restaurant and last five people that ate there on Thursday said, hey, the hostess was really rude to us, guess what? Your hostess is probably rude, right? Like, I mean,
Right.
that's something, and that's what it's constructive criticism. So when you look at that, you go, hey, maybe we need to send in the shopper, send in my mom that, doesn't know that I own the restaurant and see how she's treated. If she's treated like garbage, well, guess what? There needs to be some changes there. Because guess what? That hostess could have been there for the next 3 months, cussing people out and being a savage. Nobody find out about it. Your restaurant goes down. You're like, what do you mean? We had prices and all kinds of people were coming in, and I don't know what happened. It could be the hostess that just does bad
Right.
things. And so that's what you got to look at. Like when you get bad reviews, think about it from a consumer's perspective, because that can be valuable information to improve a
Well, and I,
product.
I actually agree with that from a consumer perspective. I think when I am shopping, I actually read the 1 or 2 or 3 star reviews more than I read the 5 star reviews,
Of course.
because that's exactly what you're saying. It's weeding out, okay, like, what did they not like about it? They're going to give the most honest, horrible critique of this, and maybe it's just not what they needed, rather than something else. So that's awesome. So I want to ask a few questions about your family life and like childhood, because I find that people become who they are, and they get a lot of these traits and the things that make them good at what they do, and their interests, usually before the age of 8. A lot of this stuff has been decided. So I'm curious about, like, how big was your family? Are you the oldest, middle child, single child? Like, what was the family dynamic like? What were your parents doing growing up, and what type of value system did they instill in you early on in your life?
Yeah, yeah. So I was raised. So I just turned 50 this year. So I'll give you that. I'll give you a little
Congratulations.
context. Thank you. I made it. I'm excited about that. Yeah. So my background or my family life was really awesome. I mean, I had a great family. So grew up in Sacramento, California. It actually was another suburb. It's called Elk Grove. It's just right on the outskirts of Sacramento. But most people know Sacramento outside of Elk Grove. I was raised, my parents were both hippie parents. And I don't mean that just like a derogatory term or something. They were really just hippies. Had a Volkswagen Bug, all the fun stuff. And my mom was a nurse. She retired when she was 35 years as a nurse. And my dad was a counselor, but he was also president of the Teachers Association. So a very, very loving family. Very, we were huggers and hand holders and treat people with respect. And I was raised that way. I was always raised like, hey, treat people like gold.
Are
And
you
I,
second generation American? I say second generation American. Like, did your parents come over from Ireland? Did their parents come over from Ireland? Like, what at what point did they land here?
probably about 3 generations ago, like in
Okay.
Sacramento, we actually, my great great grandfather has, well, actually, a few of my grandparents have schools named after him in Sacramento. We owned a big portion of Sacramento at a certain point. We don't own it anymore. I don't know what happened to that. But anyways, that's a whole
The
nother
money didn't
conversation.
flow down to you, Shane,
No, man, I
when they
didn't.
got sold.
I got a hug and a handshake, man. I told you that's what I got.
You
I
had to
didn't. There
work
was
for your
no.
money.
That's it. I
Horrible.
know. It was brutal, man. Everybody has these silver spoons. I'm like, where'd you guys get these things? Because
Where's mine?
I didn't seem to get my silver
Called a
spoon.
shovel, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. Go find the money. Okay. Grandpa's got it in his casket. That's a little morbid. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I just had I had a really good upbringing. I mean, my brother is about 6.5 years younger than me. We are very much polar opposites in a number of different ways. I'm very much consumers and products and e-commerce and that kind of stuff. He's more on the activist side of things, like, is very big into politics and does a videography and stuff like that. So there's some synergies, but we're very different. My
What do you think
biological
that
dad,
difference is?
yeah,
Because like, is that an age gap difference? Was just different things happening as you guys were coming up? Like, what do you think led to that difference in mindset, perspective, uh, development?
it's I honestly believe that was the way that my brother was going to be, right? And this is the way that I was going to be. And
Okay.
obviously we have outside sources that play into that. My brother came out like, hey, I'm this and hear me roar, right? He's always been a very strong personality. And I mean that, like, people call it passion, which is true, but
Sure.
he's just been a strong personality. Like, he's always like, I'm not giving way too much information. He was gay at a certain point, and now he's not. He's married. It's a long story. But he was like, hey, when he was 14, he's like, hey, I'm gay, and you guys are going to have to deal with it. And we're like, all right, cool. Like, do your
Yeah.
thing, bro. Like, it's not, I don't really, it doesn't affect me. I don't, I'm not dating any of the
Sure.
guys you're dating. I like women. So my
Sure.
point of that is like, he was always just very, very strong headed about what he liked. And I am strong headed about stuff, but I'm very, I would say, a little more even keel about things, right? Like, as I'm gonna say, hey, you could be this or be that, and we could have a conversation. Like, I enjoy that. I like humans, I like people, and I treat everybody with respect. Unless I don't get treated with respect, which, I would assume most people are that way.
Sure.
But my brother's very, hey, it's kind of this way or the highway kind of thing, and
Uh-huh.
which is fine. That's totally cool. But like, for me, I'm just not that way. Like, I'm
And
definitely
6 years
more,
younger, though. By the time that you're 14, you're 20 at this point. By the time he's
yeah,
deciding who he's going to be, and
yeah,
was again that would put him right around 46. So you guys are definitely like, you're what we call cuspers, right? End of the Gen X
yep,
and beginning of the millennials um, circumstance. Although you would be very much in the Gen X category, um, solidly. So, what do you think like was going on in the environment? Was there a lot of your friends that were uh, more like go along to get along, just do your thing, and in his friend group, as far as culturally and societally, more just adamant, uh, I think strong-willed and passionate, but there's a lot of people in that millennial group and that cusper group that almost as a sign of rebellion from the Gen Xer way of life. Like Gen Xers, I feel like latchkey children, they just like, yeah, whatever, we'll get on with life. We'll
yeah,
figure it out.
yeah,
But then there was a certain level of the society that turning into millennials started to say, you know what, I don't like that, and I'm going to stand up and say that I don't like that
yeah.
way of being. So I'm curious how much of that played into who you guys became.
Probably a lot, actually, because at the end of the day, I was a very much, hey, I don't want to rock the boat. Like, we're good. I'm gonna, like, hey, if you have to work this hard, I'll work this hard. Like, I wasn't.
Sure.
I mean, my family, said, hey, let's work hard, and my family worked hard, but I was always like next level. Like, I was like, always had this thing of like, hey, I wanted to succeed. My brother was going, hey, maybe he wants to succeed, but succeeding wasn't his idea of success was going to be different than mine. Mine was going to be financial. It's going to be doing this and helping people. His was going to be like, hey, I don't really care how much money I make. I'm going to help this group of people, right? I feel like they're being suppressed for things that are happening, which is awesome. But I also believe that we were raised obviously very similar, but the people that I surrounded myself with very competitive and, hey, we're going to go forward and with sports and all this kind of stuff. And my brother was a little more not into sports. He just wasn't into that, which is totally
Sure.
fine. But he had a group of people that were, they would, it was a different time, right? So I think
Yeah.
it's like we didn't get a second place trophy when I was in soccer. Like
Mhm.
you're either first place or you're not. Nobody, and all of a sudden there was a certain point where like, hey, everybody gets a trophy and everybody's loved, and I love that. I think that's great, but that's not the reality of the world out there for me, right? Like
Sure. Well, I don't think it's the reality of the world for anybody, and
for anybody,
and
yeah. Like
they
you're
pretend
gonna,
to assume it is, and that's a problem that our country's hopefully survives through this mind illness, and I mean that in the most respectful way, because I think in some degree we all fall for it at different areas of our life, and that's why I mean, we'll tie into why, but keep going on kind of
yeah.
your experience growing up there.
Yeah, and so and once again, and as you said, like not to fault anybody that's younger than me, I don't, everybody has that's the way they were raised, so there's not any other way. That's the way it was for them, right? So I'm not saying that was wrong, but for me, it was a different time. I was like, hey, I'm not looking. I don't look for a handout. I don't look for, I'm not saying that everybody younger me is looking for a handout, but it's more prone to how are you going to help me? And I'm like, I didn't look to anybody and go, hey, who's going to give me cash for my rent? No, like everybody's like, guess what? You got to make it work, bro. Like you got to go out there and make it
Sure.
happen. Like there was no, like I'm either pay rent or I'm on the streets. There was nobody giving me food stamps or whatever. Not saying my brother has food stamps, but you get my point. Like I didn't rely on anything. I'm self-reliant.
Sure. Well, I think what's interesting is you've moved yourself into a career at some point, and again, this career specifically is maybe a second or a third career. You've had a lot of other things you did, but where you are now, I don't think the generation that believes everybody deserves a trophy is also the generation that believes everybody's opinion is worth it and valuable. And that is just not the way that reviews and your business would operate. Like your
Yeah.
opinion isn't valuable if you're not obeying the rules. Your opinion isn't valuable if you're going to use whatever language. You don't get equal right of representation on my Amazon page, right? So like you are operating from a black and white set of rules that are actually opposite. It's a generational thing, and this is what I'm fascinated by. Like the world that you operate from, your perspective and your perception of the world is different than somebody who was raised 10 years after you,
Yeah, absolutely.
inherently, by what world we grew up in.
Yeah.
And some
Yeah.
people got that transferred. I would consider myself, although I'm not a Gen Xer, I'm technically I'm very much a millennial. The way I was raised, and this is why it comes down to like lifestyle and how you're raised. I started working full time when I was 14. We were homeschooled. Sorry, when I was 11, I started working full time. I left home when I was 14, and so like a lot of independence I just gained at a young age, and responsibility and accountability and all paying for all my own stuff. That all happened very young for me. It doesn't happen for everybody, and I'm not saying it should. I do think that a certain environment can raise a certain belief system about, hey, it's on you, buddy, rather than no,
Yeah.
there's going to be this. Everybody's important. No, I don't
Yeah,
have to
no,
listen to your
and
opinion.
it's the way that you're raised, and it's also the environment. I mean, there's so many factors that play into that. And once again, we had the same parents, right? I mean, growing up, so it's not like that factor was that different. It's just certain things that you pick up on, and it was that time. It was just very different. My dad didn't wear a seatbelt. They drank beer in the car while driving. Well, guess what? We don't do that anymore. Like it was a different time, right? So that doesn't mean I'm any less of a man because I put my seatbelt on and I drink beers at the house, but it's just different.
Sure. Well, I don't know that I love the seatbelt thing. I'm just kidding. I do sometimes. Don't listen to this and come watch me drive around. But sometimes when I'm driving around my neighborhood, or I got to go to the store, I'm like, my kid is on my lap. I want to hold my kid today. Like,
It's your
whatever.
kid, man.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's my kid. Anyways, that's really funny. And regarding the parents thing, I'm the seventh of 11 kids. The life that my oldest siblings in our family, we kind of joke about how there's like 3 or 4 different families
Yeah.
because of the different parenting styles and what was important to our when I was being raised, and even prior to my mom and dad were more extreme when my oldest siblings were being raised. By the time I was being raised, my parents were still pretty anti-school, anti-government, anti a lot of anti things, and by the time my youngest siblings were of age, they all graduated from high school. My parents worked as the lunch lady. My dad worked as a janitor in the school across the street. Like, it's so funny that the
Yeah.
difference
Transition.
in transition and how kids turned out and what happened. And we all are entrepreneurial minded. We're all very productive. And like, there's certain values that transferred, and then there's other things that just were completely different in our family. So it's kind of funny to think about.
It
They're
is
all the
because
same parents. Yeah.
everybody evolves. I mean, it's that's why
Yeah.
my brother and I. It's like we had the same parents, but our parents also evolved during that time, right? In the beginning,
Mhm.
of course, your first child, you're hyper, you're like helicopter parent. You're like watching, hey, you got to do this, be careful of this, and did you do this, and did you get this done? And by your 10th one, you're like, man, just come home by Tuesday. Like it's
Yeah,
fine. Like just go
exactly.
do your thing. Don't kill yourself. Don't do anything bad. Don't shoot anybody. Stay off drugs if you can. Like, like it's very different because you're a little more laxed about it, right? Like with my brother, it's just different. It's like we all evolve, whether you think it's good or bad, we evolve. That's just how it
Yeah.
is. I mean, any
It's
relationship.
it's the desensitization, just like those reviews or the asking for reviews. It's the desensitization to that process. So did you and your brothers, I guess your brother, did you guys ever have a not great relationship, or was it always like a great relationship? The growing up still is, everything's wonderful.
So it's funny, man. You're the first person to ask this question. So, my brother and I historically have gotten together or gotten along very well, right? The only times that we would have issues, like one time we were going to church, this is a long time ago, and I was wearing a leather jacket, and him being an advocate against animal cruelty. I didn't even realize. I mean, I knew I was wearing a leather jacket, but I didn't. And I go to give him a hug in church, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, I haven't seen you in a year. Like, I'm gonna give you a hug. And he's like, you have a leather jacket on. I was like, yeah. Wasn't even putting two and two together. Like, I was like, yeah. And I've got a shirt on too. Like, what are we doing here? And he's like, that's a cow. And I was like, okay, all right. So
Okay.
let's hug. Let's just hug. Like, sorry. So my point of telling you that story is that there was little things that happened along the way. Not to go too much into the
Sure.
whole family
We're
dynamic,
not here to
but
destroy
my
any
my
family members. I just am
no, no,
curious.
no, 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 no. But I'm also an open book, right? At the end of the day, like I don't hide from anything. My journey is my journey, and I'm open to sharing it
Sure.
with anybody. I have no problem with that. But I actually haven't physically talked to my brother in a few years. And the
Interesting.
reason why that is because his passion is awesome. Like I love the fact that he's passionate about stuff. But what happened was there was start to be some bleed over into political stuff. I'm not a heavily political person, right? Like I believe in some things. I like some things about this party and that party and green parties or whatever party, right? Like I'm here
Sure.
for the better what's best for human beings, right? And that's not always either one of the sides in my opinion, right? I mean, we can say this is great for this is great for that, whatever. So I don't get into really crazy political debates because I'm not heavy into politics. I have my opinion on certain things here and there. As long as people are good humans or treating people fine,
Sure.
take care of the kids, don't beat women, don't do anything weird. Like, anyways, my point of telling you that is my brother's politics really started to bleed over into my politics. And I'm not a heavily political person. And in fact, a lot of our political views were very similar, but it was when he started to jump into my lane and telling me what I need to think and how I need to act and what I need to do, that was a hard, not a constructive conversation. Like maybe you and I sit down, have a beer, and you're like, "Hey, Shane, how do you feel about XYZ?" Great, we can have the conversation. At the end of it, I can go, "Hey, I agree with you. I disagree with you." We say, "Hey, not a problem. Thanks for the beer. I give you a hug. See you next Sunday."
Right.
It's fine. Like it's not a problem. I'm there to learn. I don't claim to know everything. Even if I do think I know everything, I'm always a student of the game. Like in anything I do, I'm an SEO. I've been doing SEO for 20 years. So guess what? I can never learn anything. That's a terrible way of looking at anything in life. I look at like
Sure.
I'm always a child of the game. There's always more things I can learn. So the same thing with this. So my brother started to come over into my lane and would call me. I hadn't talked to him in a few months and be like, "Hey, who you voting for?" I'm like, "Hey, nice to talk to you too. What have you been up to?" Like, I'm like, what happened
Right.
to like family and just, hey, how's the family? How the kids? Like, what's going on? And how's life and how's work? And like, are we going to lay down a little foundation before we get into like what you really want to know about? And so what happened was there was just some things that happened. There was some things with family. My
Hmm.
brother was some people that didn't have the same views that he had, and he felt a certain way about it. And so I jumped in and said, hey, listen, like you're not, family members that he was saying things to that I didn't agree with. And it's not because I disagreed with what he was saying. I just said, hey, for me, family's family, right? Like if we get
Sure.
together, you're going to be my family and we're going to hang out and we're going to have good food and we're going to enjoy each other's time. But if we start getting into something that's going to disrupt that whole equation, and if you're constructive, you just want to have conversation, cool, we can have 1,000 of those. I've got no problem with that.
Sure.
But if you're coming in when behind your back you've got a knife and you're like just waiting for somebody to say something, you're setting people up, then that's not going to work for me, right? And like I said, we could agree 100% in politics. We could like be side by side, but
Sure, but the process and how it's delivered is
I'm more of a like, hey, let's all try to get along. We don't all have to get along. Like I get that. I don't expect for this to be this utopia. I mean, I was raised by hippies. That doesn't mean I believe that everything is
sure.
going to be perfect if we just, hold hands for the next hour. I know it's not going to happen, right? Like at the end of the day.
Right.
But what I looked at is like, hey, let's treat everybody with respect. Let's start there. And then we can branch out into other things. And I didn't feel like respect was given to some of my family members. And so I stepped in and, and he didn't like that. And that's kind of how things happened. And so we got into a little bit of an argument. And that was the last time I talked to him was because of that. So, do I miss my brother? Do I love my brother? Of course. Like, absolutely. Like I would do anything for my brother. But what I realized is through relationships, what I realized through reading a lot of books and stuff, not just because of my brother's situation, but books I would read, you just because they're family doesn't mean that you guys have to be perfect, right? Or even get along all the time. So it was a very hard thing for me because I was like, oh, you're family? Like I'll take a bullet for you, which is true. And even with my really close friends, like I'm a very loyal person, like to like almost to a fault.
Sure.
But what I realized is if I can't be who I am around you because I feel like I've got to kind of not say things because I don't want to ruffle your feathers. And I don't say things usually that ruffle feathers, but you get your feathers ruffled, then that's your thing and not my thing, right? And I have to figure out who I want to spend my time with and the energy that I want to put out there in the world, because I want that to come back to me. Is that positive energy, or do I want to hang around with people that are, and I'm not saying my brother's this way, I'm just saying anybody. Somebody that's always naysaying, is always negative and all this, and like, oh, I don't ever have an opportunity, and oh, this is terrible, and oh man, nobody likes me. And it's like, bro, like I'm not here for the pity party. Like at the end of the day, we all have crap we deal with, right? Like I get that. But for me, I want to put out good things in the world, right? I want good energy. I want to be hanging around people that are positive. I don't expect to hang out with everybody positive. Am I always positive? No. A high percentage of the time? Yeah. Because I enjoy that. I want other people to have that same energy of like, hey, let's go enjoy this world. Like, let's go enjoy life, right? And we don't know how long we have. It could be another week. It could be 10 more years. It could be 50 more years. But guess what? I'm going to enjoy my time, and I can pick who I want to hang out with and who I enjoy hanging out with. And my brother just fell off that radar for me because I was starting to do things differently than I should be doing because I was worried about what he was going to think. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to be who I am. And if you don't like that, that's cool. Like I've got no problem with that.
The same, honestly, just asking for the same respect he wanted when he was younger. And hey, I'm going to be who I am. Respect that and deal with it. So I think that's good. I'm curious, how has that affected, or has it at all, relationships between you and your parents, each of you?
Yeah. So, I mean, it definitely has, right? I mean, it'll affect, if anybody says it doesn't, it does. You might not know about it, but it will. So my mom obviously would like for us to, reconcile and try to figure it out. I've kind of told my mom, like, listen, I have no problem with meeting with my brother and having a conversation, but if he starts doing certain things to, I'm no longer going to be the passive, like, hey, not say my opinion on something, right? And once again, I'm not a heavily opinionated person. It's not like my way or the highway, right? Like
you want to be allowed to have an opinion. That's all.
That's exactly it. Yeah, exactly. Be able to voice it. If you say your opinion, then I should be able to say mine. And if we don't agree, that should be okay. And I don't feel like that was always okay. And so I just thought, I don't want to get into it. I'd rather just be around him. And now I was like, well, wait a second. But if he starts coming at me sideways or saying crazy stuff, I'm not going to put up with that. I'm going to say, hey, man, well, hold on here. Like you want to accept everybody, but you don't like my opinion on something. So now you're going to like not talk to me, or you're going to do something. Like, I don't think that's fair. I'm not here to tell you that you need to change that. If that's the way that you are, I accept you for what that is. So guess what? I need to change. I need to do something different, right? I can't expect for you to be a different person. And that's hard, especially when it comes to family. But at the end of the day, it's like, hey, man, I want a community of people that I enjoy hanging out with. Don't always have to get along. But I know that they respect me for who I am and for what I do, right? And that's just, that's important for me. I didn't realize that for the longest time because hey, it's family. You got to hang out with family. You got to get along, and you can't ruffle the feathers. But I'm like, well, but you don't have a problem trying to ruffle mine. But if I even have a slight opinion that's against yours, then it's this big thing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not fair, right? It's got to be
Yeah.
reciprocated. So it's been interesting, man. It's been very interesting. So
Well,
my dad, I'll tell you, so my dad is, wishes that we were talking again. Him and his brother aren't estranged by any means, but they're not like best friends by any means. And so they have their own thing of, whatever it is, of, family stuff. And so my dad would like for us to probably get back together. And I don't know if it'll ever be what it was originally, like when we were,
sure.
when we would hang out all the time. He has his family, and I have my family, and we have my son, and so we're starting other families, and we all branch off. Your Christmas that you had 30 years ago is probably not the exact same people that you had today, right? Like it changes
Yep.
and it evolves, and we have people over at Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's different people. We have friends, we have families. I just invited a guy I met 2 weeks ago at a bar. Was having a beer, and the guy's name's Ron. Wife died a year ago, and I said, "Hey, come over for Thanksgiving." He's like, "You don't even know me," and I'm like, "I don't need to know you, bud. Do you eat turkey? Do you like good red wine? Do you like good IPAs? Are you live a half a mile away? Like, why not?" So
Yeah.
I invited him
Okay.
over because I don't know Ron, but guess what? He didn't seem like he's a serial killer, and I'm sure I'll make it through Thanksgiving. We should be fine.
Yeah.
Hopefully
We hope
Ron's
so.
not
Fingers
listening to
crossed,
this.
right?
Yeah.
I just teasing. No, I love that. But I think that the reason, as a listener, you might think, why did he spend so much time on understanding the review process of Amazon's? Why is he now transitioning into something completely random of the family dynamic? How does this work? Because I told you in the beginning of the show, like, what am I interested in? I know that AI, and specifically the nature of what AI's capacity is, and I say that like very, very novicely. Already what I know of its capacity and what will be on social media and in the world, and the issues that we live with, it's an issue. And if we can't address it and understand it and identify, okay, let's go into the family dynamic. Well, let's go Amazon. Shane, you spend most of your time removing things that are out of bounds as far as the Overton window about what Amazon has decided is okay. We all
Mhm.
need to have, in my opinion, in my life, you need to create a constitution about a constitution, a declaration of independence for you that says, hey, this is what I'm going to accept in my life. This is the type of speech, this is the type of interactions, this is the type of
Mhm.
environment that I want to create. Now, this isn't to all of us go into our echo chambers and only exist with people that we agree with. That's not at all what I'm talking about. It's okay to have contrasting reviews. It's okay to have contrasting opinions. But if they're outside the bounds of the life you want to live, not respectful, not kind, there's more accusation than there is a desire to come to a conclusion, or at least an understanding. The review process can be a nasty game, and we all get reviews. We may not know what the reviews are. He mentioned that. Hey, well, whether it affects you and you know about it, or whether it affects you and it's all happening behind your back, it's affecting you. Okay. We all
Yeah.
have reviews. You have a reputation. Your family has a reputation. Your parenting style has a reputation. Your children have a reputation. You have a reputation with your children. Like, all of this is happening. You have a reputation with your wife. You have all of this brand management or reputation management. It's all an active part of our lives. And
Mhm.
without overwhelming you, I think it's important that we address this and understand, how does somebody on a bigger scale, how do they make their determination? He told us Amazon has a set of rules. He's not trying to break the rules. He's not trying to abuse the rules. He's not trying to tell other people, Amazon, too aggressively, too frequently, hey, you need to listen to me. No. Hey, we're going to do it in a metered, appropriate manner, at a certain scale, a certain level of change. They can't change overnight. There's millions of people. How about we just change what we can in a meter scale? He's pre-programming his clients. This is all relationship. I know this, like, how did this go from like a business Amazon podcast to a relationship podcast? Because this is life. These principles are principles of life. So when it comes to his family, he has to create boundaries. Well, online, there's a lot of stuff that's going to come out. AI is going to create videos. AI is going to create audio. It can already dub your voice pretty good. It can already make videos that seem real. It can already do a lot. Is there a little glitching still? Is it not perfect yet? Yes. But we're so close to fidelity. So, fidelity, if you don't know what the word means, essentially it means like, how close to reality can we make it? The difference of AI generated content and reality content is the it's very high fidelity. There's a very close connection there. When we're dealing with reviews online or social media or things that you see online, Shane, what have you learned in viewing these reviews and being able to say, that's a bot, that's a bot, that's a bot, that's a bot review? We're getting all this. What have you learned about being able to identify fake reviews or fake content? I'm just going to call it content at this point of the conversation. Fake content online versus identifying um, legitimate, real human content in the review process. What have you learned in analyzing this that you could share with us about how do we, as users of the internet who don't know, we're just like, oh, this product must suck because it has 1,000 negative reviews. It's like, no, that was somebody attacking your company. That was not real. So, what have you learned about how do we identify this for ourselves? Because this, unfortunately, there's a lot of people who commit suicide. There's a lot of people who get majorly depressed, especially young individuals who are interacting with this beast of an internet and have no clue what's real and what's fake. You post a video, a funny reel, it goes viral, and half or more of the comments are negative, and you think that that's real people talking to you. It's not most of the time, but you think it is. It feels real. It feels like this is life. So how do you separate those, and what education would you give your children if you were talking to your children? How would you help them understand the difference of reality versus this online ecosystem that we all exist in?
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's a delicate balance, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, you do see, some amazing things that can happen with AI, right? I mean, and then you also see people that are going to take advantage of AI and use it for bad, whether that be whatever that is, right? It's a hard one because my son obviously grew up online just because of, I mean, he's 27 now. So when I'm talking about online stuff, what I was doing is laying a foundation of like, hey, remember, anything you put out online is out there, right? So make sure that you're being respectful. Assume that anything that you put out there, somebody screenshots it and can share it or something like that. And just, it's going to be respectful. Try not to crush yourself looking at reviews or what people say about you, because that becomes very difficult. And we've all been there. I mean, this happens with, celebrities all the time. And I used to do a lot of online reputation management for celebrities. So I have seen a lot of stuff over the years, things that are untrue, things that are true. What's crazy about that is like with the knowledge that I have online, I could end somebody's career within a few days, like very easily. And I don't mean that as a threat. I mean, because I use my superpowers for good. But what I mean by that is like the internet's a pretty crazy place, but it also can be controlled by people that know how to put out information. I mean, that happens on a daily basis, whether that be,
Sure.
we put out information, you have these people put out the same thing, exact same occurrence, but two different things. And then all of a sudden this goes viral, same incident, two different viewpoints. That people have that, right? We see that, as you said, about X and, Facebook and having fake accounts and all these types of things. I mean, there's always a way to game the system. So what you've got to realize, and I was, talking to my mom about this, about reviews on Amazon. And she goes, oh my God, how many of them are fake? Oh my God, and I go, Mom, at the end of the day, if you look at it, it looks like a good product, go read some of the reviews, right? You don't have to go read 1,000 of them. You don't have to overthink it. But if you start to read the reviews and it just doesn't sound right, like it sounds robotic, or it just doesn't sound like, it's not a thorough review. If you have a thorough review, now AI can write a thorough review. Sometimes you write too thorough of a review, right? So
Right.
it's sometimes hard to figure out what that is. There are tools out there. Like actually one of them is called Fake Find. Fake Find is a tool that you can use where you can go in, and if you can put in an ASIN, or you can put in the product, the link of the product you want to buy on Amazon, and it'll give you a breakdown of how many of the reviews they think are fake, and they'll kind of give you a breakdown of that. I do believe you're going to see more of this stuff of how do we disseminate between AI and somebody who really wrote a review, right? And Amazon has tools to do that. Do I think it's 100%? No, it'll never be 100%. Walmart's won't be 100%. Google's won't be 100%. Nobody's will be, because the more that technology comes out and things can happen, people are going to look at ways to manipulate it for financial gain,
Sure.
to take advantage, like whatever that is, right? There's always an angle. No different than when your kids go and they go walk to school, you tell them, hey, don't talk to, strangers, don't take any candy, make sure you go to school, don't cut, don't do drugs. It's the same thing online. Hey, you're going to start talking to random people. You don't know who you're talking to. Be real careful of that. If your spider sense tingles a little bit, right? This is a tingling inside. You're going, hey, something doesn't feel right. Something's probably not right. If something seems too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. So what you don't want to do is get pulled into these situations and not think about things rationally, right? You got to really kind of pull back and say, does this make sense, right? Or I see these reviews and they feel like they just seem a little too good. They probably are too good, right? At the end of the day. So what I think it's important is that when we get pulled into this thing, the internet and online, it's important to pull yourself out of it too, and also go in the real world, right? Like I used to work 20 hours a day. Like, this is a true story. I used to work, I was crazy. I was an absolute savage. But I'll tell you this, I was also 40 pounds overweight. I was drinking energy drinks. I was doing, 5-hour energies, anything I could do. I mean, I already wake up like this, dude. I'm like you. I know how you wake up. You probably don't even need coffee in the morning. I drink coffee. It's not even needed. I'm already in fifth and sixth gear, and people are like, dude, give me a few minutes. And I'm like, no, let's push-ups. What are we doing? Like, we're going to make this happen.
Yeah.
Like, bro, you're like, I don't know what you were sipping on this morning, but you need to chill out a little bit. Like, I'm always automatically at this level, where I just go, go, go. And working 20 hours, I just realized, man, there was just a lot of things that, anyways, I wasn't heading in the right direction.
Right.
I just, mentally and everything. So my point of that is I had to pull myself out from that, right? Not only just, what people were saying and things online, but just saying, hey, what do I need to do to have to enjoy life, right? And that means not being online all the time. Like, you can be online all the time, but guess what? There's going to be some unhealthy things that are going to happen just because you're there and things are happening. So, keep that balance, talk to your kids, be involved with your kids' lives if they're online, if that, anything like that, figure out where they're at. There's all kinds of things you can do to help protect them. But what your kids are dealing with online is the same thing that we dealt with 30 years offline. Some similarities, right? There's always
Well, the
danger.
difference,
There's
though,
this.
there is, but I feel like a big difference between online and like in the past, if you wanted to say something really nasty to about somebody,
You had to go to say in the
then you could
face.
you could say it behind their back. But like, if it was ever going to come from somebody's mouth, then it came from a human's mouth and it came to your ears, and so you got to react to it that way. Um, and it's kind of weird when I think of like response management. On the one hand, I think, wow, text messages are really great. Sometimes in relationships, if you're struggling to communicate, it actually is really good to, hey, write out all your feelings. I'll read it in a letter by myself, so I don't have to hear your voice say it and all the tones and all that stuff. And then I'll respond in a letter, so we can some relationship management, trying to
Yeah.
come without all the baggage history. Sometimes that can be helpful. The challenge is that if we start as a society removing our ability entirely to respond to a human to human conversation, because we're so used to having time to think about and be upset and then cool off, and then that's an ineffective way to live life, in my opinion. Again, I'm not saying I'm right. This is my opinion. It's an ineffective way to live life. Not right or wrong. It's just ineffective. But more importantly, during those high emotional swings that we've just made space for, I think that there's a lot of damage, because while your mind runs rampant, your mind doesn't know the difference between reality and fiction. It only knows what thoughts it's happening, and as long as you allow it to spiral, it's going to keep spiraling, and it's going to energetically feel as if it's real, even if none of it was real. And so I think from an online perspective, we're losing that immediate response factor when we do discover information, and we're losing the body language, uh, visual cues of how that is being delivered. When you think of communication, we teach this in like a sales context, that uh, if you broke down communication, 55% of it's body language. So you
Mm-hmm.
remove body language, you're already losing 55% of communication.
Yeah.
Then 37% is metaverbals, the tone, the pitch, the speed, all the things that are added there. Only 5 to 7% of communication is written communication, like
Yeah.
the actual words being used. And we're deducing our society down to this, and then we're having these emotional responses to 5 to 7% of communication. And my kids are 8 down to, we just had a baby, 8 weeks old, so they're coming up in this world that's even different than I came up in, and I don't understand half the stuff that even my kids understand at this point, and they're 8 and 6, and so like, it's not going to get any better for me, I don't think.
Yeah.
From a technology perspective, I'm trying to catch up, but it's just like, it's happening faster than I can possibly imagine. So I'm wondering what lessons are just good general lessons to emotionally regulate this world that we're moving into. Like, it used to be, even when I was growing up, you didn't see dirty images, you didn't see pornography, you didn't see stuff unless you really had
Yeah.
to look for it on the internet. You had some uncle with magazines, like, you just didn't see that stuff. Now it's not just, are you going to see it? Okay, when I was like 16, 17, 18, everybody had access to it in their pocket. The iPhone was created, and it was like this new renaissance of pornography. Now it's like, I fully believe this, and it's like, it's heart wrenching, but also it's, how do I protect my children against this? Against fake reviews, people speaking in other people's names. Creating a video used to be like picture or it didn't happen, right? Pictures or it didn't happen. Then it was video if it didn't happen. I don't know what the next layer is, like this or it didn't happen, because even
Yeah.
video looks like it happened,
Yeah.
and the problem with that is what happens when my children are cyberbullied, not just by what people are saying and not just Photoshop, but now it's like, no, now we have a video of your kid doing this. We have a
Yeah.
video of your kid robbing the store. We have a video of your kid experiencing inappropriate actions or whatever. Like, we have
Yeah.
videos of this,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
like, one thing. Let's say the law says, oh, we're just not going to pretend it happened. The law and social justice are two different things. The law might agree with you and you might be right and vindicated under the law, but socially careers are destroyed, your humanity, like, these are two different things that I'm asking, like, in sincerity, I really don't know how to address that with the next generation. I'm curious, like, what is, your kids are grown a little bit, but there's 27, still young enough to have some real emotional responses to what's
Yeah.
happening online. I'm 32 and I still have emotional responses to it, like, well, is that really happened, so, like,
Yeah.
um how do we deal with that as a society? I'm really curious, like, what are your thoughts in the world you're in? What are your thoughts about how you could deal with that? Or what type of mentality do you need to teach your child young? Because we get into these decisions while we're young and then we live our life this way, about what's important. How do you defend against that? It's not if this is going to happen, it's when it happens, how are you going to
Yeah.
respond? How do you forecast that? Just like you do with your clients, you say, hey, look, this is a realistic expectation about what we're going to experience as we work together. How do you do that for your children when it comes to the online world that we're existing in?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the way I would look at things. Is when you have online, communication with your children is going to be extremely important, right? I mean, that's where if you don't have communication, they go off. They're going to see all kinds of things that you don't want them to see. You're not going to know what's happening. You want to make sure you have that open line of communication with your kids, and that can be about anything, right? They might have seen something that's uncomfortable. If you go give them a hard time for seeing that, they're never going to tell you they're going to if they see that again, right? Like, so you want to educate them on what that looks like. The other thing for me really is the big thing is once again, like, whether it be online or offline, limit online usage, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, like, if that's a big thing, like, give you an example, like, we had video games. My son could play, I think we were doing like an hour, maybe 2 hours in the weekend. That's the max. You've got 24 hours times two, you get 48 hours, assuming you don't sleep, but you do sleep. Let's say, so you get an hour a day. There we go, right? So, because I can imagine if you played video games, violent video games for 12 hours a day, you're going to turn into a different person, right? But we
Sure.
didn't want to tell him, hey, you can't do that. So, hey, you get to watch some of them. Now, we didn't let him do the crazy games, right? There's plenty of games you're like, there's this and that, all kinds of bad stuff. We tried to say, okay, hey, there's this one, you can do these games. Hey, play FIFA or play, basketball or something. So we tried to, still give him permission to use things, and then having an open conversation with him about things that he's going through and things that are happening. The hard part is I think just educating your children on, don't believe everything you see or you read, right? Like, that's very, very important of, like, and that could be in anything, because when I write a blog post and I'm just writing about marketing, that's my opinion, right? That doesn't mean that it's facts, right? And you've said this multiple times. You said, hey, I'm not saying these are facts, but this is the way that I feel, right? This is my opinion,
Mhm.
and these are opinions, right? And so at the end of the day, let your kids let them remind them that, hey, this is somebody's opinion, or this is somebody's going to say something about you. Well, then how are you going to handle that, right? Like, how would you feel if this happened? Well, I would feel, oh my God, I'd feel terrible, and I'd want to do this, this, and this. And say, okay, what happens if you found out that they really didn't write it? Would it still hit you just as emotionally? Well, I mean, that would be good to know. Okay, well, great. Then let's talk about that, right? Like, how are we going to indicate or figure out whether this was something that was really written, or if it wasn't written, or if it's real or if it's not real? But always take a step back and try to assess it, right? Let me take a look at this. And then I always have people that I talk to, right? Like, say, hey, how am I going to deal with this situation? You talked about it earlier. Like, hey, I could go and come in guns a-blazing and be pissed and write all kinds of stuff. I'll talk to other people that are not in this situation and say, hey, like, what are we looking at here? Like, what do you see this? Like, I just had a situation, a text message, actually it was a WhatsApp message about a few days ago. And it was from my developer. And it was just, what he wrote was, his English isn't perfect. So what I wrote was, I thought he was saying something that absolutely wasn't what was being said. I had two other people look at it and they go, I'm not getting that at all. And I'm like, oh. And I was going to jump in and go, what do you mean this? And what do you mean that? And
Right.
like, I was going to react a certain way, but I thought, you know what, let me phone a friend, right? You have those shows where you're like, hey, I'm going to phone a friend. Like, so now I would do that. And the same thing with kids. I would say, hey, listen, if you have a situation, bring it to me. Right. My goal is to be able to help you assess the situation, right? You're young. You got maybe somebody's bullying you or something's happening. I'll always be here for you. right? Now you're always going to be a liaison. And you got to think about how do you handle that, right? You want to protect your kids. If you tell your kids, don't go online again, don't ever go online again, that's not realistic, right? Those things are still going to happen. But I think at the end of the day, it's just important to be able to look at that and make those assessments and then figure out, make sure you have that open communication. So if something does happen, they do come to you, they bring it to you, and then you guys can have those conversations about what that means. And once again, what are the next steps with that?
And we have a family mission statement that we have, and I've started reviewing the words with them. I recognized I was a lot more dominant, we'll say, in my parenting style with my sons than I am with my daughter. And that kind of inspired me to think, okay, maybe I could be kinder with my sons rather than be more rough with my daughter. That doesn't make sense. So it's good, but now instead of like just spanking them, that's what I normally go to. Hey, I didn't like what you did, spank. But now it's like, okay, if this is what I believe a Knickerbocker is, if this is the life that we're trying to live up to, go read it and then think of which of those words did you not live up to in what you just did. And if you were going to live up to those words, what would that look like? Do you want to live up? And starting to have more, it takes a little bit more time to parent in that way, but I think that it'll be beneficial. So I liked your suggestion of, hey, having those conversations. How would you feel if this was said? If you found out it was not true, then how would you feel
Yeah.
about it?
Because
Walking.
we talked about this earlier, it's no different than reviews online, right? You just because you don't address them or look at them doesn't mean it's not happening. So what I, as a parent, if you go and you have these conversations that just open your kids' eyes, because guess what? If they go, they get attacked online, something happens, and then they go and something really bad happens, and you could have had that opportunity to have the conversation to go, hey, that's fake, right? What do you mean it's fake? And then educate them on that. Or you at least planted the seed of saying, hey, just everything that you read, take a step back. If you want me to come take a look at it, I will. And then you can assess it as an adult because your brain is obviously, a lot more mature and you've seen a lot more things and you can educate them on that. So once again, hey, how do you feel? Why do you feel that way? That's, I think, with any situation, whether it be online or offline, how do you feel about this? And then what do we think we should do? And does this fit with, I like that. You can think of like a mantra or a saying for, what this is. And are we, like my wife's dad, what he used to do, his big thing was like, make sure you respect the family name. Like when you go out, you're going to do something. If you do something crazy, that's going to make the whole family look bad. Right. So
Right.
what are we going to do to make sure that we uphold that to be good citizens and to be good people? And so that, I mean, even till today, her dad passed a few years ago, about a year and a half ago, but she still thinks about that. Like, what am I doing? That's actually stuck with her. And so when she thinks about this, like, how am I going to react to something knowing that my family name's on the line? That doesn't mean you need to be a sucker or have people take advantage of you, but it definitely means like, hey, what is the adult thing to do, right? How am I going to handle the situation? And then do I need to ask other people? And you're not going to handle everything perfectly, but at least having that conversation can diffuse a lot of things, whether that be online or offline, and I think is extremely valuable. And I think what you've done is having that communication with your kids doesn't get any better than that, because when you don't have communication, that's when something happens and as a parent you're like, I had no idea. And you hear that a lot of the time. Well, that's
Right.
because maybe the communication wasn't there, right? And that doesn't mean every relationship, because you have communication, bad things won't happen. But guess what? It's a lot easier when when you have those uncomfortable situations, those conversations about sex, AI, about whatever. Those are all things that are going to need to happen, and you got to figure out how do you get it so they understand what's going to happen or potentially what's going to happen, at least kind of set them up for success and not for failure, not to get caught off guard and go, oh my God, I don't know what's going on. And then they're in a situation to be like, okay, I kind of have a prep. I kind of know what's going on here and how this should be handled and what is the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do. They're not always going to follow that, but the idea is you at least gave them some guidelines. Otherwise they're flying blind.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm flying blind a lot of times in different
We
areas.
all
So
are.
yeah. So that's the other thing. I hope that I know that when I hit about 26, 27 years old, I started to give my parents a lot more grace and just was really grateful that I survived. And I operate a lot from the perspective that, one day my kids will think the same thing. They'll come around to realizing, oh, dad and mom were just giant children trying to figure out life as well. And they did the best they could with the knowledge they had.
It's
And I can do better, hopefully.
that's every parent, man. That's what you have to realize is every parent, like every kid being raised, whether they were raised right or wrong, what is right or wrong? Like honestly, like there's
Sure.
so many different variables, there's so many different things that happen. Once again, you have a certain thing, the way you want your kids to be raised. And guess what? There are going to be one of your kids, two of your kids that are going to not like you for a few years or not going to like this, not going to like that. that's part of the process. No different than they were, when they were 2 years old, they were doing this. When their teeth were falling out, they were acting this way. They decided to kick another kid. Well, that wasn't in the training. And guess what? You're a kid, you're not a kid, but I mean, say you're an adult now. We do the best we can. And guess
Sure.
what? It's not going to be perfect. And your children, my son could go talk to somebody and be like, dude, your dad shouldn't have done that. That's terrible. I did it. Like, I don't know
Okay.
what, it's like, sorry, I didn't read the parent like, I didn't go through college and, have a 4-year course on how to be the best parent. And even the stuff that we got taught back then is different today.
Yeah,
So it's like,
exactly. It changes. It's like, oh, what is good back then is now like, oh, don't do that.
it's,
Hopefully,
I mean,
it cycles back a little bit. I mean, I think there's a pendulum and it needs to swing a little back the
I'm, I'm,
other way.
I'm with you on that. But at the end of the day, man, as long as the way I look at it is, however you want to raise your kids is how you raise your kids. But for me, I'm just, hey, I raise my kids to be good people, really try to hold people in the highest light and be a good person. That's just always been my mantra is like, hey, treat people the way you want to be treated. Now, if somebody comes sideways and, does crazy stuff, then you can handle it the way you need to handle it. And you have the conversations. If you can't get out of it, then there we
Sure.
go. But, you just got to, I try to look and think of the positive of everybody, but not everybody is positive and not everybody's great. But that's what we talked about this earlier is who's my sphere of people that I want to hang out with.
Hmm.
Right. And that doesn't always have to be yes people. It doesn't always have to be everybody says, oh my God, Shane, everything you do is amazing. No, I want somebody that comes to me and says, I didn't like, that was dumb, dude. Why did you do that? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I didn't even
Right.
think about it. It's like, it's important to have that. It's important to have a nice mix, but your
Hmm.
kids are going to be awesome, dude. You're an awesome guy at the end of the day. Like you're doing the best that you can, but every parent's in the same situation. They literally are. We
Yeah.
fly somewhat blind, right? We do what we think is best. And guess what you teach them today in 5 years might not be the best. That's
Is
it. I
what it
mean, it
is.
is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you
We did
do,
the
man?
best we
Like,
could.
it's like, I mean, hey, my son didn't kill anybody. This is awesome, man. He's doing great. Okay, that's your parameters. That's your baseline. Then there we go. I don't know.
There you go. Well, hey, is there anything else that you want to cover on this? On this?
No, man. I'll tell you. I've done hundreds of podcasts. I really appreciate your angle on this podcast and how the questions that you ask and the way that you tie that back with your background and everything. So I really appreciate that, man. These weren't a lot of the atypical questions or typical questions that I get, which is awesome. But I love the kind of, nobody's asked me about my brother, not that I expect him to. And once
Sure.
again, me being an open book, but I do think this is valuable for people that listen to be able to understand, once again, maybe even parents, this is supposed to be about reviews and Amazon. And now we're talking about parenting. I love that because you never know who's going to hear this and going to need this message right now. So I appreciate you bringing it to the forefront and making it happen. And this has been awesome, man. Congratulations
Yeah.
on the success that you guys have built in the family and also teaching your kids to do the right thing, man. That's
Hey,
awesome.
we're trying, and it's just a honestly. I started podcasting back in 18 for purposes of just trying to. I don't love writing, and I wanted to write a book, but I'm like I do not like writing. So it was back when Otter AI was like the coolest thing. It could transcribe your stuff and Dragonfly, all that. But at the end of the day, I think one of the things I've gained the most from the podcast, honestly, is it's made me a better dad. It's made me the ability. I've been able to talk to a lot of different people in a lot of different industries, people that I look up to, that I want to become like, people that I never want to become like, people with all different political spectrum belief
Yeah.
systems. And it's really helped me have a rounded perspective. And then also like, okay, I can ask people who are a few years ahead of me, hey, what'd you do? But also you are an expert in this other industry that I interact with every day, but I don't understand. How can I be a better? I think that's the best thing about this podcast has been maybe selfishly for myself, and I hope that I can pass that on. I'm actually in the process, so this is an exciting thing. By the time this gets aired, our episode will have already dropped, but I'm actually going to have my dad start being a guest interviewer on the show because there's a lot of things that his perspective's so different than mine. Like we do not think the same at all in a lot of ways. And he often he'll send me a message after a podcast. Hey, I wanted to know this. Why didn't you ask that? I'm like, dude, that never even crossed my mind. So like you come in, you start interviewing, and we're gonna have some very different episodes. But I think it's really cool to say that hey, we get to do this together. We're gonna do a father-son podcast together and interview and get different perspectives from people and see what different type of conversations are alluded to. And I'm excited about that. And it's going to be a lot of
Yeah.
fun to see that get built up even more and have him grow from him getting to learn from different people as well. So It's exciting. I appreciate your time, Shane. I know with the technical difficulties, this sometimes happens, but if there's anything that I can do moving forward, that'll be great. And if somebody wanted to find you and use your services, if they're a company and they're like, hey, how do I get more reviews or review or get rid of the bad reviews, where would they go to actually engage with TraceFuse AI?
Yeah, so you could go to TraceFuse.ai, and that's TraceFuse.ai. So that's the website. You can go there. We actually have a free tool too that if you're an Amazon seller, you can use that, and it'll create a report for you on reviews that violate Amazon's guidelines, and they can file on their own. They don't even have to use our services. But you can reach out to me at Shane@TraceFuse.ai. So you just put Shane in front of @TraceFuse.ai. Then I also have my main website, shanebarker, where I've written tons of articles and blah, blah, blah. You can go there, and my email there is super creative. It's shane@shanebarker.com. So if you put Shane in front of either one of those domain names, then guess what? You get a hold of me, and I'll definitely get back to you, usually within a few hours of you reaching out.
Awesome. I love that. And I would recommend anybody who listen to this, go on Instagram. That's where I found a lot of his stuff, but he's got tons of reels sharing more content and more specific content than what we shared here, because everybody asks different questions. They come from different angles. I told you very upfront what my mission was on this podcast. I hope I delivered that to you. I hope you guys got the value out of that. Both from a business side, but also just from a personal relationship side, and understanding how do we become better humans at living on this green earth that we've been given, and just live happier lives. I'm all about happiness and love, and how the hippie you might say in me, and I want to help that be as true as possible. So thank you so much, and we'll catch you guys next time on the Fuel Your Legacy show.
Call now, don't hesitate. 385-323-2493. Change your fate. A legacy in motion once you go.